Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt's youngest son has just turned 17, and for the first time the world is paying very close attention to him, not just because he is now over 6 feet tall, strikingly handsome and beginning to look almost exactly like his father at the same age, but because on one of the most important days of his life, something unexpected happened. Brad Pitt was not there. No public appearance, no confirmed visit, not even a visible presence in what should have been a milestone moment. And suddenly, what looked like a simple birthday became something much deeper, a quiet moment that raised a loud question. What is really happening inside one of Hollywood's most famous families? And why now? Before we go further, take a moment to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share your thoughts below. Because this story is not just about fame, it is about family, silence, and the moments that define relationships forever. Now let's start with the image that made everyone stop scrolling. Knox Jolie Pitt has always been the quiet one, rarely seen in public, rarely speaking, and almost never chasing the spotlight that constantly surrounds his family. While other celebrity children grow up in front of cameras, building their image early, Knox seemed to do the opposite. He stayed in the background. But recently, that changed. At 17, Knox has grown into a tall, composed young man, reportedly reaching over 6'1", with a presence that feels calm, controlled, and far beyond his age. And people immediately notice something else. He looks like Brad Pitt, not just a little, almost exactly like him during his early years. The same sharp jawline, the same balanced facial structure, the same quiet confidence in the way he carries himself. At the same time, there is something else in his expression, the depth, the intensity, the emotional stillness often associated with Angelina Jolie. It is a rare combination, and it is powerful. In another life, this would be the perfect setup for instant Hollywood success. But Knox does something unexpected. He stays away. No interviews, no public statements, no attempt to build a personal brand, no visible effort to step into the film industry. And the more he stays away, the more people want to know. Because in a world driven by constant exposure, mystery becomes something extremely valuable. And that mystery is slowly becoming his identity. But the real story is not just about how he looks, it is about what he is choosing to become.
But what truly surprised people was not just his appearance, it was the direction he quietly chose. On his 17th birthday, Knox received a gold medal. Not for acting, not for entertainment, not for anything connected to the legacy of his parents, but for sports, a completely different path. And that detail changes everything. Because in a family defined by global fame, red carpets, and decades of cinematic history, Knox is building something else entirely. Discipline, focus, routine, and a sense of identity that is not handed to him by his last name. And that choice is not as simple as it looks. Growing up as the child of Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt means growing up under pressure that most people will never fully understand. Every movement watched, every decision questioned, every achievement compared to two of the most recognizable figures in the world. For many, the easiest path would be to follow directly into that spotlight, but Knox steps away from it. And that is where things become interesting, because choosing a different path is not just about preference, it is about survival. It is about protecting your sense of self in an environment where identity can easily be replaced by expectation. To understand why this matters, you have to look at the world he grew up in. The divorce between Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt was not just a private separation, it became one of the most public and prolonged family conflicts in Hollywood. Years of legal battles, custody disputes, media speculation, and constant attention from the public.
And over time, the impact of that conflict became visible. Most of their children eventually took clear positions. Some openly supported their mother, some made symbolic decisions to distance themselves from their father. But Knox did something different. He stayed silent. No interviews, no public reactions, no statements that could be interpreted or turned into headlines. And at first, that silence may seem like absence, but in reality it can be something else entirely: control. Because in a world where every word can be used, misunderstood, or amplified, choosing not to speak can be the only way to protect your own narrative. But silence has a cost. It creates space. And when space grows over time, it can slowly turn into distance, not visible at first, but real, and sometimes permanent. And this is where the story begins to shift, because the question is no longer just about who Knox is becoming, it becomes about what he may be losing along the way. And this is where everything becomes impossible to ignore. 17 years old, a turning point between childhood and adulthood, a birthday that should bring family together even in complicated situations. But this time, Brad Pitt was not there. And that absence carries weight, not because of headlines, but because of what moments like this represent. For a teenager, especially one growing up in a divided family, presence matters more than words. It is not about public appearances or media attention. It is about being there when it counts. Birthdays, milestones, quiet moments that later become memories.
And when those moments are missing, they do not disappear, they stay. Some people believe it was scheduling. Others think it reflects a deeper distance that has been forming quietly over the years. The truth is, no one outside the family can say with certainty. But what people can see is this: a young man stepping into adulthood, standing on his own, continuing forward without his father beside him on one of the most meaningful days of his life. And that image is powerful. Not dramatic, not loud, but quietly heavy. And sometimes those are the moments that stay the longest. Now the story moves beyond appearance, beyond speculation, beyond even success or future potential. It becomes something more human. How relationships change over time, how distance forms without clear boundaries, how silence, while protective, can also slowly separate people who were once close. Knox now stands in a unique position. He may be the last quiet connection between Brad Pitt and his children. Not because he says anything, but because he has not said anything, and that difference matters. But even the strongest connection cannot hold if it is not maintained, because relationships are not lost in one traumatic moment. They fade, slowly, through missed opportunities, unspoken words, and moments that never happen again. And one day there may come a point where there is no clear break, no final argument, no visible ending, just distance that has become permanent. And when that happens, what remains is not fame, not public image, not even success. It is memory, a birthday, a moment, a space where someone was expected to be. And the question that quietly follows: was there still time to show up? And it was missed.